Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Pradeep Krishnakumar, who is the co-founder at Zook, a direct-to-consumer brand. Pradeep is a graduate of IIM Ahmedabad and has worked for companies such as Deutsche Bank, McKinsey, Guild Capital, and Browser Stack before starting his own venture. Hi Pradeep, welcome to ELI.
Hey, hi Priya. Thank you so much for inviting me to ELI. Really love the mission you guys are you're kind of driving with lots of fellow entrepreneurs.
Pradeep, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure, sure. So, like Priya said, I'm the co-founder and COO of Zook. We're a direct-to-consumer brand for bags, wallets, and accessories. We're a 100% vegan and proudly Indian brand, not just because the products are manufactured in India, but also because all our designs are very Indian in style, and that's what we want to kind of bring to the market. Uh, we are a digital first brand, which means we sell via our own website as well as like places like Amazon. And the interesting bit is like a couple of our bags also appeared on the popular Netflix show Little Things 3, where the lead actress carried the bags as well. So yeah, we have about 30,000 plus happy customers across India, and excited with the new wave of D2C, and hopefully we can ride that together. And prior to that, like Priya, you said, did my undergrad from IIT Madras, then worked with Deutsche Bank for about 3 years. Then did my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. That is where I met my co-founder, Disha Singh, who we're also husband and wife. And then have been in bulk of majorly more startup journey, working with a early stage bus company called Limo, followed by working at Guild Capital on the VC side, and then followed by part of the growth team at Browser Stack. So yeah, that's been my overall journey till now.
Pradeep, I would be very interested to know. When I define entrepreneurship, I would say entrepreneurship is about solving a problem in society and getting compensated for it. If I were to ask you, what exact problem are you solving in our society?
Yeah, no. Uh, so I think it's a combination of two things actually, Priya. That's how I look at it. One is there is an idea, there is a passion for something that we want to build, and second is really what is the problem we are trying to solve, or what's the gap in the market, right? And I've seen entrepreneurs start with both, right? One just saying, "Hey, this is my idea. This is what I want to do," and then over a period of time, figure out what is the problem and fine tune it. And then the other is saying, this is a problem I have faced and I want to solve it, and then kind of solve it, right? From Zook's point of view, what we realized was in the traditional bags, wallets, accessories market, most products are very Western in the way they look, right? They're very Western. And in fact, the interesting bit is even if you remove their tags, it's very difficult to say which bag is from which brand, right? So we said we needed a product which is very different. Then we studied, what do people wear to office or to travel, and in India there is a good section of people who actually wear more ethnic Indian wear, but they're carrying a Western looking bag, and that's where we felt there is a need for a more Indian bag, right? And secondly, also in one of our courses at IIM Ahmedabad, Disha actually went to a place in Kutch, which is close to Ahmedabad in Gujarat itself, and saw that there were a lot of products from local artisans, right, handicrafts, etc. But they weren't really modern in their functionality, which is why a lot of folks did not really buy them. Even our batchmates, nobody bought them, and we said, hey, why not? And the major thing they said was, it's not modern. I can't, I can't put it in my house, nor can I carry it around. So that's why we said we have to take the essence of India. We have to still build a very stylish product, but it has to be modern in its functionality. And that's how we've kind of weaved together fabrics like ikat, taken in a more Indian approach, and that's why you'll see a lot of our products is a lot more Indian in their look and feel, which goes very naturally with what women wear to office, majority of them, which is like ethnic wear and so on and so forth. So that's the problem statement that we went after, and that's what we're going after today as well.
Uh, would love to understand what are the nitty gritties of building a consumer brand in India, especially when you're operating in the premium segment. I'm assuming you operate in a premium segment.
Right. So see, I mean, we all studied MBA, etc., but real world is really different, right? So this is what we have realized. This has been our journey. So I'm going to answer this by using our journey first, right? At Zook, we actually spent a good amount of time initially building a good product, right? And that does not mean, kind of just doing surveys and asking people what they want in their bag and so on and so forth. What we did was we actually took a very offline heavy journey to begin with, where we started making bags and taking them to a lot of these exhibitions, right? These are slightly mass premium exhibitions. We did about 50 plus exhibitions across India, in fact, right? And the idea was twofold. One is to really test out the product, not by saying, sharing an image and saying, will you buy this or not, but by actually putting a price and saying, buy this and receiving monies from it, right? I think that is one very important thing that I tell a lot of entrepreneurs, which is, hey, one is to kind of send a survey out. Second is to say, click yes if you'd buy one. And third is to get them to really buy, right? So that's what we did for a year, in fact. So in fact, the starting 18 to 24 months was actually building the right product and taking it to customers, and doing that via exhibitions. And that's how we figured out what the right product is, right? And from there on, we realized that just running exhibitions was good from a cash flow perspective, but wasn't really great from scalability perspective. And that's when we shifted to a more online model and started by starting zook.co.in, which is our website, and selling products from there, right? If you see this journey, it starts with actually building the right product first. Second step is actually building out distribution, because exhibition was one way of distributing. Online just opened a massive way of distributing across India, right? And then you add more layers to it. When you sell on Amazon, you're starting to sell to an audience that comes to Amazon already, right? And so on and so forth. So distribution is the second big piece on the consumer side. And third, and actually that is, I would say, the holy grail, is actually to build a very good brand, right? A brand that people love, a brand that people resonate with. In fact, we started saying proudly Indian much before, vocal for local, Atmanirbhar Bharat was in vogue, right? We've been saying this for nearly 3 years now, right? So those were things that, from a brand perspective, which we do in terms of, putting out good content on Instagram, interacting with our customers, encouraging our customers to give us feedback, and so on and so forth. So that builds the brand. So it's really three steps. Step one is building the right product. Step two is really getting the distribution right. And step three is really building a strong brand, so that, then all the other parts can kind of work their magic. So that's what it takes, in my opinion, to build like a consumer brand in India or throughout the world. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now tell us your story from the day one, like how you and your co-founder got together, and how did you choose the problem statement, or should I say, your vision to go after, and
Mhm.
finally, tell us how did you find the right people to take your vision forward.
Sure, sure. So I think we come from a more quantitative background. So of course we did a lot of research, crunched a lot of numbers to say, okay, so our passion is to build a physical product, right? Now in that, what is the white space that we feel is there in the Indian market, which is still big, but is still very untapped. And that's where we found our niche, which was like really bags and wallets and accessories, right? That segment, right? From there on, like I said, the first few months was really building the right product. Because for us, what was key was we realized that if we sent the right product to our initial set of customers, they will talk about the brand, about the product, and get us more customers, right? That would be the biggest kind of marketing channel, if you want to call it that, right? So we started by building the right products, and we've started going to exhibitions. When we were going to exhibitions, we also had a social media angle, which was, at least on Instagram, Facebook, we started saying that we're going to be in your city in this place, right? uh, so that also led to more people following us, and that's how it kick started, right? And then in about the 18th month of the journey, we felt that exhibitions might not really help us scale, right? And that's when we took a more online route. And the interesting bit was, at that point, again, we were new, we didn't really know about tools like Shopify, etc. So the traditional path, we reached out to a freelancer, he built us a website. And in the first month itself, we realized how hard it was, because both co-founders, we were not developers, right? So we kind of really struggled with that. And then over 2 weekends, we discovered Shopify, built a website on Shopify, and then things kick-started. I think the toughest challenge for an entrepreneur is setting milestones for yourself, because it's a new journey, right? Nobody can say do this, then do that, then do this, and then you'll hit nirvana or whatever, right? So we kind of broke it down, used a kind of first principles, and said our first goal will really be to sell one bag a day, right? So imagine like saying entire day I'm going to sell one bag, right? But I'm going to sell that one bag consistently for some period of time. We started with that, and then we really ramped up. And we realized that setting goals really helps get things done, because that sets this is what we need to do, right? So we started with a bag a day. That kept us and for about 2 weeks we consistently were hitting a bag a day. Some days we sold five, some days we sold one, but we were like, okay, now one is happening, right? And from there we started. uh, Soon we started getting a lot of people following us on social media as well. And they would reach out saying, I love the bag. They would reach out saying, hey, I want this, I want that in the bag, etc. That's how we built out our about 13 categories of products itself. That's how we expanded. And then we slowly started hitting milestones across X amount of sales per month, and so on and so forth, right? So it has been an interesting journey where we started improving on milestones. I think one of the things we both Dishan and you, from our past experience, was really building out the right team, because we knew that both of us alone can't be doing this, right? So first focus was really building out manufacturing, hiring the right folks for ensuring production happened, where we are producing like good quality products, right? Quality is important, also in like predictable timeline, predictable cost, and so on and so forth, right? So that was one part where where initially, while Mumbai as a place is expensive, what we realized was Dharavi was a large center for skilled labor to make leather bags. And then we have upskilled them to use fabric and leather to kind of make that together. So that was on the production side and kind of ramping that up. uh, Second piece is really on the ops and logistic piece. We have like very dedicated folks who were really open to working in a startup environment, right? Because in startup, a lot of processes are not there. Like interestingly, like one of the first people we found in ops was we went to one of the supermarkets, and there was this person who was really good to us in terms of how he cared about what product we bought, etc. He was in the apparel section, right? And we hired him full time, right? Because we both Disha and I, we were really happy with the way he was kind of thinking about the customer at that point of time. So we hired him on board, and then he's helped us kind of scale up our ops team, right? And then we've hired folks on customer support. We've hired folks and on the social media side. The key thing has been all of them has always said customer first, right? And that has really helped us scale. And again, as we scale up, we'll also be hiring more experienced folks now, right? Who have done this. Till now, we have hired people who are very open to new challenges and things like that. But we've always found that those were the people who were better than us in what they were, kind of brought in to do. Either they were more passionate about it, they've done this in the past, so on and so forth. So I think that's what we'll continue doing. That has really helped us scale Priya to, about now 65K followers on social media, or ensuring packages are sent on time, received on time. We send the right responses to our customers. Production is of the highest quality, so on and so forth. So that's been our journey till now.
Okay. One thing I would like to understand. So, building a FMCG or building a consumer brand is an expensive affair. Lot of aspects have to fall into place before you make profit. So I would like to understand how did you manage your funds or finances in the initial days till you achieve the break even?
Sure, sure. So we are a profitable business. We've always, I don't know, that's what we learned from, our education is also. We never really understood kind of heavy burn businesses. We are a profitable business, and we, as of now, remain bootstrapped. So the idea was this only that the reason we went with exhibitions, to be honest, was to get cash flows going. Right, we discovered pricing, we discovered what features people want, but it also meant we were selling, right? Which means we were getting cash coming in, right? From there on, we've always had a very strong view on, how we manage costs, how we look at inventory, because that's one of the things that consumer brands really end up locking a lot of working capital on, which is inventory, right? Uh, Priya, to be honest, starting up a consumer brand today is not very expensive, right? Compared to a very offline heavy model where you need to be able to have so much inventory to get even the premium shelf space in a large format store, etc. And I'm not even going into, starting your own store. That is like a completely different affair, right? Today you can have a Shopify website with an Instagram kind of a social media system to ensure you get discovery done and people come and purchase, right? So that's the power of going digital. What it really takes on the back end is how much inventory you have and how can you be very lean. So that has been something that we have been very focused on right from day one, to say costs we have to keep under control so that we can always grow month on month. And even on talent, I think we've been very selective in whom we kind of bring on board. Are they the right people at the right scale for us? Scale is important. We can't hire a very senior member very early on in our journey. We need to get them when the business is also ready for them, right? So those are things that we have seen from a financial standpoint. Of course, personally, we have put in some of our capital as well to get started. That always happens, but gone are the days where you need to put in like 5 crores or 10 crores of your own money to start a brand, right? Those you can still start, I think, at even about 5 to 10 lakhs today, right? And but it takes that much amount, that much is for sure, but from there you can kind of really ramp up. So that's how we've kind of navigated this.
Okay. Pradeep, one thing you mentioned that when you started out, you did not have technical understanding of doing online business. Since you mentioned Shopify, building the Shopify website and hiring freelancers. One thing I would like to ask you: when you start out, you start with two or three skill sets that you are good at. For example, in your case, you understood the business side of it, but you did not know the technical side of it. There are many entrepreneurs who have good technical skills, but they do not understand the business side of it. They don't have leadership skills, or they do not know how to raise funds. So there are multiple skill sets that are required to run a venture. So how would you suggest someone who comes with limited skill sets uh, and wants to become an entrepreneur? What are your playbook for that?
Sure. So I think uh, in most of our jobs, not just in India, but typically we learn on the job, right? And very interesting. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he was saying, "Hey, now you're an entrepreneur. You must have a really high sense of ownership." And then he corrected himself, saying, "No, there's no sense. I think this is ownership itself, right?" So I think that is the first trigger, in my opinion, that gets people to really learn that skill. Now, uh, for example, you mentioned leadership skills, right? I think leadership skills actually comes from a combination of two things, in my opinion. One is, if you've worked with a leader who's been very good to you, right, then you pick up certain skills that you then kind of pass on to your team. And second is actually managing a team, because for that leader, the members of his or her team will be very different from your team and whom you have hired, right? So leadership, I believe, at the initial stage actually comes by actually leading, right? And facing the consequences of it. You might have good people whom you hire who might leave because of your leadership skills, and then you correct yourself, and then you kind of learn through that journey. So I think leadership skills can't be taught, it has to be just learned by doing, right? Fundraising is also a very interesting process. I mean, I've been on the VC side, and there are certain trends that get a lot of attention at certain periods of time, and then certain other trends don't at some point, and so on and so forth, right? So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to continuously focus on building products for customers, right? Because I think the biggest thing that any investor also looks for is actually validation of what you're building, and the biggest validation in my opinion is still revenue, right? And then unit economics for that revenue. So those are very fundamental aspects which I think every entrepreneur learns by doing, right? uh, Third thing is, I think sometimes there's too much focus on doing things which are very scalable in nature, right? But I feel you have to first do things that sell, and then you can figure out the scalability piece. Like, for example, we could have figured out how to have the best kind of sales plus ops kind of engine ready, and then we start selling, and then we'll figure out maybe the product doesn't work, right? So we had to do the more non-scalable things first, and then use technology on top of it to make it more scalable. And scalable is all not just about technology, it's also about the people, right? If you get somebody who's better than you, or who's already done this earlier, after you have achieved certain certain kind of revenues or certain traction, then that person might have a better solution to this problem. So I would say, if you are already a person who knows the tech side of things, you know how to convert things which are non-scalable into a scalable solution. So that's good for you, but you have to first figure out the business part of it. Are you able to sell a particular product or a particular service, for that matter, to the first few customers? What is the feedback they give? Do they like it? Do they really tell about this to other customers or other friends of theirs? Those are critical items. Once that is done, then the rest you'll kind of figure out as part of the journey. I mean, the journey has to be exciting as well, right? So I would say leave that for the journey, figure out the right product, sell it to the first few customers, and then you'll get more feedback to improve on.
Speaking of the journey, in every journey there are ups and downs, and every 3 days or every 3 weeks you must go through a failure as an entrepreneur. So I now love to hear some of the failures you have gone through as an entrepreneur.
Sure, sure. So, yeah, actually, I would say every day we make mistakes, and then we learn from them. In fact, I had an advisor in one of my previous roles who used to say, "I don't have a problem if you fail by trying, right? You have to keep experimenting, but the only thing was you have to learn from that experiment and never repeat that mistake again." Right. And the second was experiment, but don't experiment something so big that the downside is so massive that it can shut the company down, right? Never do that. So I think both Disha and I, we've learned through a lot of failures. First one was, like we said, we spent a lot of time building a very offline heavy kind of channel, figured out the exhibitions market, how to do that, how to sell, what pricing, etc. But then we had to really pivot. But had we not have done that at that point, today we wouldn't have kind of been able to scale up, right? So I think that was a critical juncture where we learned this the hard way. So I would say we could have learned this by doing 5 exhibitions, right? We didn't have to really go through 50 exhibitions to learn that. But all of that is like hindsight, right? So I think that was one. We've been very heavy on selling only through our own website. Now we realize the power of somebody like Amazon, etc. So we've diversified into that channel. So that's the second, right? uh, I think even on production side, we've realized a lot of things that we've done through we made a certain type of product which didn't work. We felt that it might not work. Some customers said it might not work, but we still went ahead and did it, and we've learned from that, right? So I mean, those are common things that we keep learning and then improving ourselves on. So I would always say, as an entrepreneur, be ready to see a lot of daily failures. I wouldn't say once in 3 days, once in 3 weeks, once in 3 months. Daily, right? You'll see certain things which are not working. But as long as you see that as an opportunity to fix it, and you fix it at that point, and you'll see the magic of it that happens over a period of time. So the learning is most important, and then seeing it as a problem is most important, because you're problem solvers. So you have to be ready to see that as a problem and solve it. So that's what I would say. Don't focus on the failures. If you're failing, it means you're trying new things, which is good, right? But learn from it and improve on it.
Okay. Okay. I think we are almost up with the time, and I just have a few more questions. Tell us,
Mhm.
what are the lessons you have learned as an entrepreneur, which can shorten the learning curve of other entrepreneurs who are hearing you right now?
Sure, sure. So I think first and foremost is, as new entrepreneurs, we feel we are not ready for it. I think no entrepreneur is ready for that journey, right? Every entrepreneur has to go through that journey to learn new things. So don't worry about that. Everyone is starting at the same point, right? There are certain advantages that a second time entrepreneur has, right? But you can't jump into being the second time entrepreneur. You have to go through the first to reach the second, right? So that's one. uh, I think in all business decisions that you make, always think about the customer, always put the customer first. You might say that I think X will work, and you'll be surprised by how X doesn't work but Y works. You learn that only by doing it and talking to the customer, and then the customer literally tells you, I want X, I want Y. You might have a better solution. They will at least tell you, why is my problem, right? You might have a better solution than what they think is the solution, which is fine, right? That is second. I think third is, uh, pricing is a massive lever for a business, right? We really underestimate pricing. Like for us, right, we could have been selling products at 500 rupees, 2000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, a lakh, or even whatever the crocodile skin based products and the way they price them, right? We took a conscious choice of a particular pricing, and that can really make or break a business. So always be experimenting about pricing, right? That can really change the trajectory of a business as well. We are learning now how the power of distribution, and how good distribution with a good product is better than like bad distribution and a great product, right? So distribution is extremely key. And lastly, over a period of time, worry about the brand. You are the entrepreneurs are the custodians of the brand, right? So they have to take care of what the customer thinks of the brand, and really need to build it over a period of time, because through the brand you will unlock compounding, and the impact of compounding, which has its own growth levers. So that is very key. But that's again later on. Don't worry about it. You have to first get started, go in with that optimism. Your customers will give you that biggest optimism when everything else fails, and then from there everything else will get unlocked, right? So that's going to be my kind of message for all new entrepreneurs who want to kind of get in. It's an exciting phase. Just get in, start young, and yeah, you'll enjoy the journey.
Okay. I'm almost done. Just one question I want to ask you, which I couldn't. I should have asked this initially. Uh, I would like to understand what made you jump into entrepreneurship in the first place. You had a good job and a good career. Why jump into uncertainties? What drive you had in you that made you an
Mhm.
entrepreneur?
Yeah, no. So uh, I think the I was an entrepreneur by chance, to be honest. What happened basically was, post my MBA, we had some time before I joined a management consulting firm full time. So I actually joined my friend in helping him start a canteen. This was in Tamil Nadu, and I spent about 20 days with him, and that was very very exciting, because this was like college canteen, completely empty. We had to take all calls, where to put the table, what products to sell, what pricing to have, so on and so forth. And those 20 days really opened my mind around, hey, I think this is really exciting. I came back, and then I joined a early stage bus company as an intern actually, right? And I spent about a month with them, and I realized this is the space I want to be in. I want to be in the startup space. And since then I've always been in the startup space, either as a early stage employee there, or as a VC, and then finally starting up something on my own. Again, I joined my wife Disha, who started Zook much earlier. Joined. She's been running this full time, and I joined
Hmm.
full time very recently.
Okay.
But then I've always been. I've seen her journey through the ringside. I've been part of all the Gyan sessions, right? And also helped her do a bunch of things. Like I've been on those exhibitions myself as well, and I've enjoyed that journey. So that was something that we always wanted to do together. And now I'm really excited to be joining her full time as well and driving Zook together. So yeah, it's been a journey for me as well, and those have been the trigger points.
Okay. Good to hear that. And on this note, I'd close this session. It was a great pleasure to host you at ELI. I think our audience would have got great lessons from this podcast. Thanks for your time, Pradeep, and our best wishes for Zook.
Thank you so much, and wishing all the subscribers of ALI a very happy new year. I hope all of you start new ventures, figure out new career paths yourself. And Priya, thank you so much. I think it's an excellent mission. All the very best to you.
Thank you. Listeners, you can follow Pradeep on LinkedIn by typing Pradeep Krishna Kumar. That is it for today's episode. We will be back with another exciting entrepreneur. Stay tuned to ELI.